The state of Alagoas in northeastern Brazil was once entirely covered by the Atlantic forest, a dense green blanket of vegetation which stretched from the coast to the Amazon basin. The forest was also home to the Chukuru Indians, whose descendants still worship a god of the forest, Riki Kulya. The Chukuru believe that after a temporary incarnation in human form, their spirit will once again return to live inside a tree. In northeast Brazil, deforestation began in the 17th century, promoted by two new economic realities. On one hand, landowners needed ever-increasing grazing territories for their livestock, while on the other hand, cash crop cultivation in the form of sugarcane was introduced along the length of the Brazilian Atlantic coast, where it prospered thanks to slave labor from Africa. The consequences, all too visible today, range from the destruction of the area's biological resources to recurring and devastating droughts to socio-economic degradation. The northeast is the poorest region of Brazil. 4 children out of 5 are undernourished, and the infant mortality rate is twice the rest of the country's. To make matters worse, a survey has shown that in an area once known as a paradise of water, only 2% of the population is aware that all their precious water comes from a small forest called Pedra Talhada. Anita Studer, a Swiss ornithologist, first came to Brazil 20 years ago to study its birds. As a scientist, she never imagined that she would be swept away by human and environmental commitments, and that one day her dedication and her grassroots passion would transform the ecological and social landscape of northeastern Brazil.
When I first came to Brazil, I only was interested in birds. I studied birds for over 20 years now. But after the 10 first years, I came across a new bird. I discovered a new bird on the edge of a forest in northeastern part of Brazil. I was with my zoological teacher, and he told me, you studied the bird because in 10 years there will be no more forest. So I had a shock. I did not sleep well that night because I suddenly realized how wrong this kind of thinking is. I decided to do something for the forest. So when I get up in the morning, I told my teacher, look, I'm going to study the bird, but I will do the contrary of what you told me. I will first try to save the forest, and then I will study the bird for the rest of my life.
Começou tudo com a Anitta chegando a Quebrangulo. Nós não sabíamos nem qual o seu objetivo aqui em Quebrangulo. Não sabíamos exatamente o que é que ela queria. Alguns a chamavam até de louca. Achavam que era uma gringa, como nós chamamos os estrangeiros, uma gringa louca.
When I began to to appeal to save the forest. And mixed with all these things, I got some threats. I had many pressures and some direct threats. I think I escaped because I am a woman first. I am small in size. This is a great advantage because physically I'm not a threat to these men who are not accustomed to kill women like that, and especially not as small as I am because I'm so important. Near the forest is a village called Quebrangulo, and I could not save the forest without talking to the inhabitants of Quebrangulo, of the local people, and I get my second shock. It is especially about street children, abandoned children, and the misery in which they live. So I decided to do something for them too. It was like another responsibility I took because it was I never would believe it before that one day I will go from the birds to the forest to the children. But it was like a natural process. I could not save the forest without doing something for the villagers, I think. So I began to build atelier workshops for these children and to make a project, educational project. I helped a little socially, but not so much because the most they need is education. Quebrangulo is located in northeastern Brazil. This is already a dry region it's not a rich agricultural land. Quebrangulo especially has nearly nothing to offer the men. The growing young men leave the village because 80% of the land is in the hand of 3 families, and the rest is divided between 10,000 people. This leads a lot of young people to leave the village for São Paulo. As the villagers are illiterate and not accustomed to big cities, they find no job in São Paulo and end up in the slums of the big cities. And there we have the second generation will be the street children, obviously. If parents have no food for a child, it will go to the street and beg for one of the first realizations I did in 1987. When I came out of the forest one day, I saw a lot of children playing here on this ground. There were 3 houses, and this was not a school, it was a ruin. And then I spoke to the mayor of the village. This was one of the steps I got his friendship also. And it was rather easy because I got very quickly a donor in Switzerland, a lawyer, who gave a check, and the school was built in the same year. And it was very satisfactory to see that the school was going on very well. It has 25 children in the morning and 25 in the afternoon. And at night they do alphabetization of adults. Some people questioned me, how is it possible? How can you be active in social situations and in environmental projects? I think it's not, we cannot consider one isolated from the other, because men should live in a sound environment. If I built some social and educational projects, I had to link them somewhere to the forest. So very soon came up a project in my head to reconcile the man with the forest. The Atlantic forest, for instance, was destroyed 99%. at 99%. We have 1% of reminders, forest reminders. It's about an area of 7 kilometers, 7 on one side, 7 on the other side, to give a good idea. It's very small for a big land like northeastern Brazil. It gives drinking water to 300,000 people. It is the last testimony of a very rich fauna and flora, which will be extinct if the forest is cut down. Atlantic forest is a rainforest, a tropical rainforest, which covered Brazilian coasts in a length of 4,000 kilometers. Now we have only small reminders, and if we don't stop, we don't do something, they will be cut down also. Because man has a distorted view of forest. He doesn't really like forest because he always looks for immediate gains. And he wants to destroy more and more forests to gain more and more land, either to cultivate sugarcane or to raise cattle.
Ele é uma criatura realmente maravilhosa e tem uma vocação sacerdotal para as atividades ecológicas. Ela foi que me sensibilizou muito para que transformasse em realidade esse decreto, o seu entusiasmo contagiante. Eu sou verdadeiro fã.
The small town of Quebrangulo was founded in the 17th century by a handful of African slaves who had escaped the inhuman conditions of life on the plantations. It is still an extremely poor town, where the people's main concern is securing the next meal, and where the few landowners are not impressed by arguments in favor of preserving the last remains of the pristine forest. However, years after the Pedra Talhada forest was declared a federal biological reserve, the government finally reached an agreement with the landowners who had been evicted.
A mata não acho nada, que para mim eu não dependo dela, para mim não interessa. Não sou caçador, não sou pescador. Para o reflorestamento, na terra dos outros é bom, para mim não interessa, né?
Finalmente, em 1994, com os recursos do governo federal, os proprietários foram indenizados.
Através de desmatamento, alguém que está desmatando não. Através do serviço nosso é não deixar desmatar. Nossa prevenção não é só para... É um serviço preventivo. É só prevenir o meio ambiente aqui. Não, por exemplo, o cara está desmatando ali. E só que nós chegamos lá para fazer um tipo de multa em cima dele, aquilo ali não serve não. Porque para servir para nós tem que ser o quê? Não deixar ele desmatar.
This hole has been digged for geomorphological research purposes. It is a very good illustration for the fragility of the tropical forest soil. We have 3 layers. Here we have the first layer, which is the topsoil. Then we have the laterite, which is soil in composition. And then we have the rocky sand. As the trees, the twigs, the trunks and the leaves fall down, they stay on the surface, and in a hot and humid environment, they decompose themselves very rapidly and are reabsorbed by the roots. Now, if we cut and burn down the forests, we see what will happen. The wind and the sun and the rain will very quickly wash away these leaves, and the soil is exposed to the hot sun. And then we have the process of desertification starting. This is how we explain why in the tropical area it is much more dangerous to cut down the forests than in temperate zones. local people know every tree by a name they gave themselves. They know more than 300 names of trees and plants, and that is why I needed their help to make my research work and to appeal for the protection of the forest. This is Germoglio. I met him many, many years ago. Germoglio is born in this forest. He knows every tree of the forest. But he was also a very active hunter, because he hunted already with his father. But then he began to go with me, and he began to be my guide, because he is the person who knows the forest best. So he had no more time to hunt, and then little by little he began to preserve the forest. He goes with the police as a guide also, with the forest police, and now he is a convinced protector of the forest. Vamos, bora,
Chapéu, aquelas coisas que eles...
Parou? Não faz mais arte pesada. Depois foi que o silêncio, mas era uma luta grande, sabe? Já vem um povo aqui. Quer filmar?
É, sim, senhor. Não faz chapéu?
Não faz um... Não, ela está aqui.
Não, era de onde? Da Ilda?
E a senhora não falou para avô esquecido lá? Como é? Lá.
É o Deus Criador que criou as matas, que criou os rios, que criou o peixe. É aonde nós estamos tendo o contato com o Criador, é dentro das matas. Tanto a vida do índio como a vida de outro povo. Sem mata não vai ter saúde, né? Hoje nós vemos essas tempestades de vento, essas chuvas fora de época, é por motivo que o branco, o povo, acabaram com as matas.
The reforestation project is something positive, something gives work to the villagers, and at the same time it deepens their consciousness, because planting trees is a long-term process. The idea is to reconcile man with the forest, and I think we are achieving it. 40,000 trees are being grown. All are native species. The seeds have been collected in Pedra Talhada forest. It was quite difficult for us to get the good techniques to grow these trees, because we had no model. Nobody in the whole northeastern region has never worked with the restoration of a native forest. Now we achieved to grow 15 species.
Hoje, depois desses 14 anos de luta, o povo de Quebrangulo já sabe valorizar e já sabe lutar por esse tesouro que existia e que nós não tínhamos o menor conhecimento do seu valor.
People often ask me where I want to go, where is my goal. So I say, we plant one tree after the other until we reach Amazonia, as the Atlantic forest came from.
After years of hard work, Anita's dream is becoming reality. Determination, a strong maternal instinct, and a poetic, holistic vision of life have enabled this great little woman to reconcile ecology with society and man with the forest.
Die inneren Bäume, die todestrunkenen Bäume meiner Jahre, heiß wachsen sie aus meinem Haupt, mit Frucht und Wurzel, mit Händen und mit Sonnen, behenden und besonnenen Tieren. Im Aug des goldenen Frosches glüht das Licht des Saturn, während auf den Wiesen die Kometen blühen.